Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Oculus Quest 2. This is an unboxing and review video of the Oculus Quest, which I've been testing out for a couple of weeks now and thoroughly enjoying. Now, the Oculus Quest 2 is an updated version of Oculus's wireless gaming headset, a VR headset that allows you to play VR games without being tethered to a PC. The Oculus Quest 2 is especially interesting because it comes in cheaper than the original Quest at $299 instead of $399 as your starting price for the 64GB version, which makes it very accessible. There is a bigger storage version in the 256GB version, which comes in at $399, which is the price of the original 64GB version of the original Quest. So the Quest 2 is already a bargain because that is much cheaper than flagship VR headsets like the Oculus Rift, Valve Index, Vive Pro, etc. Except the Quest 2 still runs really premium VR games. Now, if you've not played on the Quest and you want to know what this Quest 2 is like, you're going to enjoy this video. Also, if you already own the Quest and wonder whether the Quest 2 is worth the upgrade, I'm going to do a separate video comparing the two, but the short answer is maybe not, and then you'll see why as I go through this video. However, don't get me wrong, because the Quest 2 is fantastic, and it is quite possibly the most sensible choice in terms of what VR headset to purchase, not only because it's affordable, but also because it packs some serious specifications. I'll leave all the specs in the description, but if you bear in mind that this headset doesn't require a gaming PC to run and is still able to play some pretty serious VR games on it, as well as tethering to your PC if you so choose, and I'll show you a bit more about that later on, then this is a really interesting device. It also is very easy to use, very comfortable. It's 10% lighter than the original Quest. It's designed to be more comfortable. It's designed to have better battery life in the controllers. It's designed to be ergonomically pleasing. Oculus also says it has a number of accessories coming in the future, which will make it even better, so there's that to bear in mind. Small changes to things like the controllers, which mean they're more comfortable and they last longer. They also has a very striking white design to it, as you can see. The controllers and the headset are now in white. Also in the box, as well as the controllers and the headset, you get a glasses spacer system. So if, like me, you're a spectacles wearer, there's a simple bracket that you can install behind the main faceplate that then gives you extra space in the headset for your glasses. I actually found this wasn't necessary for me, but that's really going to depend on the size of your frames and how your comfort preferences. Also in the box you get a charging cable. It's worth noting quickly that the battery life on the Quest 2 is around 2 to 3 hours depending on what you're doing. In my personal experience playing with it so far, I've managed to get about 3 hours out of it. You probably won't get more than that, and you probably won't get substantially less than that, but it depends what you're doing. If you're playing games and using the controllers a lot, then you'll find that you'll drain the battery faster, but it only takes 2.5 hours to charge back to maximum, so there's that bonus as well. Obviously you can't use it plugged in while charging because it has a short charging cable, and that probably wouldn't work very well anyway. Now, the Quest 2 comes with the Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2 platform. It has 6GB of RAM in it, and it has 50% more pixels than the original as well. Other interesting things are the fact that it has the potential to run at a 90Hz refresh rate, meaning for a smoother, much more enjoyable experience, which is interesting. I'll talk to you a bit more about that later on. As you can see, as I said, the headset itself is very white. They also have this sort of fabric head strap system, which is a bit more floppy than the one on the original Quest, but is still comfortable. You see you can adjust it by adjusting the Velcro on top, and then these ribbons notches at the back that allow you to get it into a more comfortable position. There's also a slight flip-up functionality in the design of the visor, which I'll show you a bit later on as well, which I really like, which means you can just lift it slightly off your eyes so that you can see the world around you. The headset also makes use of Oculus's Pass-Through Plus technology, which allows you to use the various inside-out tracking cameras to see the world around you. And it's those tracking cameras that I really liked on the original Quest. Here you can see what I was talking about with the flip-up visor. It just moves out of the way, and I'll show you that on the head a bit later on so you can see it. On the left-hand side, you'll also note a USB-C charging port and a 3.5mm jack. 3.5mm can be used for headset and headphones, but it does have integrated rear firing speakers and then a volume button underneath to adjust the volume, and then the power button on the side. It's a fairly understated affair in terms of what you get on the outside, but there's loads of tech crammed into here, which makes it really interesting. It's a wireless headset and it doesn't require any tracking base stations. It uses those inside-out tracking cameras to look around you and suss out the room, and you can basically use it in any room as well. You'll see that the faceplate is removable, and they're also going to sell a number of different faceplates so that you can customize it to your own personal preference and size adjustments, so that's an optional accessory. The fit on this though is very good. I found that this blocked out a lot more external light than other headsets I've tried, including the original Quest, which means you get a much more immersive experience even with the glasses spacer system installed, and you can see that going on here. Really simple affair, it just clicks into place and then the headset faceplate just clicks back on again, and that obviously then gives you a bit more room. But it's really nice that it blocks out that external light, because that means that you're fully immersed in your games and just enjoy that experience. So this is what you get in the package: charging cable and plug, the headset, spacer system, and the controllers as well. One thing I will note is that, and you'll probably see it as you go through, this headset has just come out of the box and there's already a few marks on it. I haven't even used it at this point when the footage is being captured, and yet I found a few blue marks on the fabric. I feel like over time this white design might get dirty, it might be difficult to keep clean versus the original sort of black and grey styling that the headset had. Now, in terms of specifications, the Quest 2 is capable of offering 1832 by 1920 resolution per eye thanks to a fast switch LCD display panel. As I said, it has 90 Hz refresh rate potential, although at launch that's only within the home browser and a couple of other things. It isn't going to be in games. It'll default to 72 Hz, which is the same as what was on the original Quest. However, they do say that if developers start adding in the support for 90 Hz, then you'll get that faster refresh rate in future. That's 6 GB of RAM, and the extra power from the updated Qualcomm processor power also means that you have the future potential for a lot more in terms of the games that will be sent out to you and you'll be able to play. You have a lot more in terms of the games that you'll be able to play and what you'll be able to do with it. The Quest 2 obviously makes use of Oculus's hand tracking technology as well, so those front-facing cameras can also be used for hand tracking, and when you first turn it on and set it up, you'll actually use your hands and your fingers to navigate through the menus rather than the controllers, so it immediately gives you a talk through on how to do that, which is really nice. And it's fantastic, and if you start using that in more and more games in future, that's going to be great as well. One thing of interest that you'll see here is the lenses. Now, the lenses come with a different IPD system to previous headsets, and in fact to other headsets that I've tried. I will show you in a second, but you can basically move the lenses in and out to adjust between 3 different levels. There are 3 settings: 58, 63 and 68 millimeters, and you'll see that basically you just click between those 3, so you cannot granularly adjust the IPD distance. Now, if you don't know, the IPD is basically the distance between your pupils, and you usually set that on a VR headset so that you get the perfect picture for yourself depending on the shape of your head and the size of your eyes and the position of your eyes and such. And so that is a qualm that people had with previous VR headsets where it was software based and you can granularly adjust it in hardware. So some people might be upset by the fact that Oculus has gone to this 3-tier system where you can only switch between those 3. And again, I'll show you how that works again in a little while. The headset itself, however, uses, as I said, those inside-out tracking cameras. You see multiple cameras around the outside. They are fantastic. They do a really good job of tracking your hands as you're moving around. There's 6 degrees of movement, so you can move your body and move around quite rapidly and have no problems. I have no issues with tracking whatsoever, whether in bright or dark rooms. I did try it outside, and unfortunately it won't work because the headset can't see the controller. So although the headset works outside, you can't paint the edges of the room. So in order to play with this headset, you can do it in a seated or standing position in a stationary place, or you can paint out a space to then play around in. And in that space, which is a minimum of 6.5 by 6.5 feet, you can then game happily. This is a Guardian space that I really enjoyed in the previous headset, that you basically paint around the edges of the room with the controller, drawing a virtual barrier around your play area. So you find a space that's big enough, and then you draw this virtual barrier around it. And when you're inside that barrier, if you then are playing a game and you find that your head or the controller reaches the edge of that virtual barrier, the walls will light up and you'll see it in game to let you know that you got too close. This is great, and it's something that was on the original Quest and on the Rift S. Basically lets you know if you're getting a bit too close to the real world, if you're in danger of hurting yourself, damaging things in the house or whatever else. Fantastic. Now, the controllers, as I said, these are very nice controllers. They come with a single AA battery in each, and they've been redesigned. There are now less LEDs within the tracking wing at the top, without compromising the tracking capabilities of the headset. Oculus has then improved the battery life significantly on these controllers. The company says that the controllers will work 4 times as long as the ones on the original Quest. What I like, though, was very clever and a simple system, is on the previous Quest you had to turn the controllers on before you start using it by pressing and holding one of the buttons. Now this works when you put the headset on, turn it on, as soon as you pick the controllers up they're automatically turned on for you. So there's an intelligent battery management system in the headset and in the controllers, whereby they're basically trying to save battery life all the time. The headset itself also has that technology, so if you take it off and put it down, you're not using it, it goes to sleep, therefore saving battery. Obviously 2 to 3 hours of battery life in the headset itself means it's going to run down fairly quickly. The controllers last a lot longer. I've probably played for around 12 hours and I've not had to swap the batteries out yet, but again, it's going to vary depending on what you're doing. If you're just sitting down watching Netflix or Amazon Prime in VR and you're not moving the controllers around too much, so there's no tracking involved in them and none of the feedback or anything like that, then they will obviously last a bit longer, and the headset should last a bit longer too, but as I said, you probably won't get more than 3 hours out of it. Again, the controllers are also white, and you'll note there's quite a large bit at the top basically for your thumbs and movement, and that's easy. Fantastic tracking on these, had no problems at all with them. Been using quite a variety of fast-paced games. There's a number of fitness VR games, various boxing games, and all sorts of other games where fast movement is involved, and I've had no issues with tracking either. Problem I had with the HTC Vive Cosmos when I reviewed that was the inside-out tracking didn't work very well. In brighter rooms or darker rooms it had real problems. No issues with the Quest 2 at all in that way. Another highlight to the Quest 2 is the Pass-Through Plus system. I've talked about this briefly already, but basically these inside-out tracking cameras on the outside can be used to give you a view of the world around you without taking the headset off. This is great for painting the borders of the Guardian to protect you when you're gaming, but it also works to just show you the room. Within the menu, you can go into the menu system and you can click to then turn the pass-through cameras on so you can see the world, but you can also dive into the settings and set it so that you can double tap the side of the headset, and I'll show you that a bit later on. A quick double tap on the side will bring the pass-through cameras up so you can see what's going on, and then double tap again to turn it back to the game or whatever you're doing. So that's really good, really nice feature. It means that you can quickly sort of reorientate yourself in the real world, or just see what's going on if you heard a funny noise and want to check it out. You can actually use the pass-through cameras to move between rooms as well, although I wouldn't recommend doing that. Oculus says it could be a problem. You might fall over and they don't want to be to blame for that, but the tracking cameras work surprisingly well. It basically gives you a black and white view of the world. Unfortunately, I can't show you it in action, but it's pretty decent and quite interesting. As I said, you can also flip this headset up ever so slightly out the way, which is great to cool down, because one of the problems I do have with this headset, and I've always had with VR headsets, if you get too hot, the lenses steam up, and it's even worse as a spectacles wearer where they're constantly steaming. Here you can see those rear firing speakers that I was talking about. On the arms of the headset, they jut out to the side and they basically fire into your ears. This gives you positional audio and a pretty decent sound, quite loud speakers that do a good job of firing audio into your ears, but there is the option of a 3.5mm jack because there is some sound bleed that other people will pick up and hear, so if you don't want people hearing what's going on in the game. On the underside is also microphones that allow you to talk to other people if you're playing multiplayer games as well. Now, what I want to do now is give you a quick view. Now I'm going to give you a quick view of the lens adjustment system, which is a bit strange. Basically, there used to be a dial on the Quest where you could move it around and it would adjust the lenses. Now you have to do it by putting your hand inside the headset and basically pulling the lenses left to right. As I said, there are 3 different settings here, 3 different levels, and I'll leave all this in the description so you can check again. It goes with 1, 2, 3, and you can see basically 3 is the furthest apart and 1's the closest. Oculus says that everybody will be able to find a sweet spot between one of those 3 that will be perfect for them. But some people that like granular adjustment and like getting things perfect might find this a bit of a niggle. I personally found it worked pretty well, didn't have any issue with it. I managed to find the sweet spot for me and just played quite happily without any problems. The visuals on the Quest 2 are also fantastic. The lenses have had an upgrade. It's a really good display. The fact it will display at 90 Hz in the future is also fantastic. Now, another thing you can do with the Quest, and is now coming out of beta for the Quest 2, is use Oculus Link. If you happen to have a gaming PC, you can get a USB cable, USB-C to USB-C. They say you can also use a USB-A to USB-C cable. Basically need a high-speed USB-C cable, which can then connect to the headset and to your gaming PC. When you've done that, you can then go into the Oculus software, which I'll leave a link to in the description, and it shows you how to set it up in here as well. Basically download that software and your headset should be recognized by the PC and vice versa. Within the headset itself, you get a little notification saying, would you like to enable Oculus Link? And then you can then play Oculus Rift games, so premium PC VR games, on your Oculus Quest 2 without any extra hardware. Basically, one single cable will allow you to power that. Now, obviously, there are some requirements to it. You need to have the right GPU, you need to have minimum specifications, you need to be able to output USB-C. So you do need a pretty decent gaming PC to do it, and I'll link to the specs in that so you can work out if you've got the right gear and find out whether it's compatible or not. But basically, Oculus is planning to use the Quest 2 to replace the Rift S. So in the long term, the Rift S will stop being used, it will become obsolete, and they will just basically get people to buy the Quest 2 and then plug that into the PC, which makes this a really interesting device because, as I said earlier on in the video, there's no tracking cameras that you need to install. Setup is really easy, and with that tether you can then play Oculus games. So you can plug in and play Oculus games via the Oculus app, but you can also launch Steam VR and play VR games from Steam, so you could play all the games that will work on the Rift and Rift S on your Oculus Quest. Now, there are some potential problems with this. Yeah, for example, I tried Project Cars 2 in VR on the Oculus Quest 2 and I found it was very jarring, and that's probably because it only has that 72 Hz refresh rate to start with. It will require developers to make it work with 90 Hz refresh rate, so it might find perhaps there might be some vertigo issues. However, I did play other games like Half-Life Alyx, for example, on the Quest 2 without any issues, so that is great because it means you can play what was essentially high-end PC virtual reality games on a headset that is substantially more affordable than most of the standard flagship PC VR headsets. This is going to make VR a lot more accessible to a lot more people, and that's the intention. Obviously, if you don't have a PC, you don't need to worry. You can just play the multitude of games. There are 200 games and over available to buy within the Oculus Quest Store, and then you can obviously in future plug in and play via your PC as well, which gives you access to even more games, so it's fantastic. Here you can see what I was talking about with the flip-up visor. It doesn't flip up quite as high as other headsets I've seen, but you can basically make a gap where you can see the real world with ease. So there's a lot of good things to say about the Quest 2. As you can see, I actually found it hard to pick holes in it. The fact that it has hand tracking is interesting for the future. Oculus Link is also interesting. Both these features are already on the Quest, but the fact that they're going to be a standard on the Quest 2 and encouraged a bit more is really cool. Here you can see me in action playing a number of different games in my lounge, and that's one of the things that's great about the Quest 2 is that freedom to basically play anywhere you want. If you paint a area out in your room and start playing in it, but then you find, for example, let's say the kids come home from school, I need to move rooms, I can then go and change area, and the headset will automatically recognize when the room's changed and suggest that you paint out a new guardian, like you've moved out of your play space and into a new area. So it knows what you're doing and it will suggest that you then make up the new play space, and that's really handy as well. Something I liked about the original Quest, so it's nice to see it come back in with a Quest 2, and it makes it really a lot of fun. There are also a lot of really good games to play on the Quest 2, just as there were on the Quest. A number of them, as I said, are already on PC. So there's Super Hot VR is one example that I'll show you in a second, which has been a solid favourite of mine on main PC VR headsets for a while. So I originally played it on the Vive and the Vive Pro and then the Rift. Fantastic game, and it works exactly the same on the Quest 2 as it does on those PC headsets, so you don't even know the difference. You're basically paying for a lot cheaper headset running without any wires, free to move around, and yet experiencing that same level of quality. There are all sorts of other games as well that you can also do. Arizona Sunshine is another one, that's a zombie shooter, that was on PC first. And then there is Beat Saber and a few other games that are well worth looking at. I'll leave a few mentions in the description so you can have an idea of what to check out. But you'll also be able to find a variety of affordable games actually. That's one of the other bonuses, is the Quest 2 has some pretty affordable games that are still really good fun. Don't mistake the Quest 2, despite it being cheap, for one of those cheap smartphone headsets where you plug in your smartphone into something like a Google Cardboard or some other plastic nonsense where you put your phone in there and you play. Those things generally don't deliver a great experience. The Quest 2 is comparable to the premium VR headsets, and that's what makes it great. Now here you can see the view within the headset itself. I'll just quickly show you some of the different settings. One of the things you'll see, for example, is there are experimental settings, and here you can see that pass-through shortcut that I was talking about earlier. So if you manage to dive into the UI and go into your experimental features, you can turn on pass-through plus. So you just double tap on the side. Unfortunately, it doesn't record through those cameras, so you can't I can't show you the view of the world that the thing was seeing, but it's basically a black and white view of the world, and then just a quick double tap and you're back into the headset itself and then back out again, so you can go through those. There are a number of different things here, and you can also get access to Oculus Link if you go onto the settings and then device settings. You can also go in and redraw the Guardian and change the settings on that, so you can see the sensitivity adjustment of it. So if you're playing in a smaller play space and you're worried about hitting things in the real world, you can make it more sensitive so it shows up. But that's one of the real cool things about it, is that Guardian system that appears like a red lasered wall, so you can see when you're in danger of doing damage to your real world. Night display also removes some of the blue light. Unfortunately, this didn't show in the recording, but it basically makes everything slightly redder, takes out that blue light to make it easier on your eyes if you're playing for ages. And here you can see the ability to enable Oculus Link. Now, I found I had some problems with this initially, but I found if you plug in a USB-C cable to the headset and then to your graphics card, as long as you tick the right requirements, you have the latest Oculus app software, your headset's up to date, and everything else, you should find it is recognized immediately by the software, and you can see it listed under devices, and then you'll see a notification in the headset to say that it's been enabled. Now, from within the headset you can obviously buy a number of games. It is worth noting another gripe that many people will likely have about this headset, in that with Quest 2, Oculus is requiring all users to have a Facebook account. You need a Facebook account to set up with the Quest 2 and to use it. Now, you don't need to have an active Facebook account, so you can, if you don't have a Facebook account already, set one up and then use it to log into Quest and then never use your Facebook account again. And Oculus said they're expecting people to do that. I do have one, so I just used it for mine. But if you're worried about the privacy, say for example, people seeing your real name when you're playing multiplayer games online with random strangers you've never met before, then you can actually go into the settings and tweak what people are going to see as well. So it's worth just diving into the settings and checking that out, because you can see the permissions of what's going to be displayed and who's going to see what. So you can see, if you go click on your name and then you go into privacy settings, you then get the option to see who can see your activity, who can see your friends list, and who can see your real name. Now obviously your real name you might not want strangers to see. If you make friends on Oculus, then that's fine. If you want to select only me, maybe, you certainly probably won't want to put it public. Luckily, Facebook friends on Oculus is the default, so there's not too much chance of random strangers seeing your full real name when you're playing games. This is obviously a minor gripe depending on your outlook of Facebook. The intention of the company is to use what you're playing to then serve you more ads on Facebook to basically sell you Oculus games and such like that in future. So as you'd expect, they'll probably use your data in that way. The headset itself, excluding that though, is a fantastic bit of kit, really affordable, great fun to use, decent battery life, and lots of potential thanks to Oculus Link, hand tracking, and a lot more. Hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it useful, interesting, hilarious, or all of the above. Be sure to check out the description for other information you might find interesting, and subscribe and watch these other videos as well that I think might be useful to you, and have a great life.